Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Just let me know if my voice is audible. Can anyone confirm if my voice is audible in the chat box? Good evening. Good evening. Yeah. So thank you for joining today's YouTube live on medical writing. So interview-based questions. The first question which I'll be taking you through on introduction of medical writing. So probably this is the first question which any interviewer will ask you in interviews. That is, what exactly is the medical writing? So what is the point which is called as medical writing? So medical writing is a discipline of producing a well-structured scientific document. So the first answer which you have to think about it is, it's a discipline or it's a science which produces the well-structured scientific documents that make sure the medical clinical data accurately and clearly that is required as per the regulators. So whatever the format regulators are required, you're going to propose in that particular format, then that is called as medical writing. Either an investigator or a general edition or a patient. So medical writing jobs will be having an outcome of either a regulator or an investigator or a journal or a patient. So it means that there are some regulatory documents, there are some documents which are being used by clinical trial investigators, there are some documents which are being used by your journal publications, and there are some documents which are used by patients. The writer does not generate the data, he does not generate any kind of data, but he makes the data understandable and defensible and compliant. So they make sure the existing data, it's understandable in a clear way, and also it's a defensible and also compliant. So there are multiple four things, objectives. The first one is the regulatory documents which are submitted to the regulatory authorities of CDSCO, FDA and EMEA. The clinical documents which are investigator documents like protocol, ICFs and IB and narratives and CSRs. The publication documents which are manuscript, abstracts and posters and also congress presentations or any kind of activities. Patient facing, which are summaries or patient educations or awareness or drug labels or other things. Answer one clean sentence first and then expand one by one. So there are four types of documents, including the regulatory, clinical, publication and also the patient facing. What are the types of medical writing documents? Already we have discussed in the last slide. Usually grouped into four families based on the audience and purposes. So the outcome of the people are different, and also the purpose of the document, the objective of the document is different. So the first one is the regulatory documents, the second one is clinical writings, and the third one is the template driven and also compliance led publications and medical marketing writings. So the first one is the regulatory writing, which is CTD summaries, documents, dossiers and response to agency queries. The second one, protocol, ICF and IB and patient narratives and CSRs. The third one, publication writing, which is journals and reviews and research papers, abstracts, posters and slide decks. The fourth one, medical marketing materials, which includes the product monographs and also medical information letters and patient education and training content. So these are the types of documents which are required in medical writing. What is actually a medical writer does in clinical trials? So what exactly is his role in particularly in clinical trials? So when it is study startup, he develops a protocol, ICF and IB. During a conduct, he amends any investigator voucher protocol or safety letters or ICFs. He makes sure after the database is locked, the main person who develops the CSR clinical study report and also SAP and TLFs. He makes sure the full CSR, which is clinical study report, which contains all the clinical and non-clinical information and the patient information and narrative details of each patients for the adverse event and synopsis is being developed. And finally, CTD submissions is also the work of the medical writer. So 5 types of works which are being there. The first one is study startup. The second one during the study startup is the protocol ICFs and investigator voucher, and the second one is during the conduct its amendments of the protocol ICFs or CRFs or other documents and IB updates and also safety updates. The third important one, after the database lock is being done, the CSR shell is being built and SAP, TLFs and table listings figures are planned, and reporting if full CSRs and patient narratives of each adverse event is being prepared. And submissions, CTD submissions, module 2 of clinical summaries and overview is being developed by your medical writers. Now, general question, what is ICH? Which guidelines does medical writer use most? So ICH stands for International Council for Harmonization, brings the regulators and industry together. There are 4 types of guidelines. The guidelines are grouped of the quality, safety, efficacy and multidisciplinary. A medical writer mainly works on efficacy and also multidisciplinary. So if you see very carefully, the efficacy and also the multidisciplinary, the medical writers work mainly on those 2 guidelines. If anyone asks you questions that what medical writing documents are being used, then these are the answers. The first one, ICH E6 R3, which is GCP, the backbone to develop the protocol and IB and also ICF. ICH E3, which is the CSR document, clinical study report document. The ICH E2C and E2F, which is the periodic safety reports and also the PEBRA and the PEDA reports which are required, and E2F is for DSUR, developmental safety update report. The ICH E9, which is statistical principles. The ICH M4, which is the common technical document which is required. So in a nutshell, which of the ICH guidelines are being used? First one, ICH E6 R3, which is GCP. ICH E6 or ICH E3, which is CSR. ICH E2C and E2F, PEBRA and DSUR. ICH E9, which is statistical principles. And ICH M4, which is CTD, common technical document, which is being used. Now, what exactly is ICH E6 R3? What is GCP? The GCP is ethical scientific quality standards which are being used for the designing, conducting, recording and reporting of clinical trials. That involves most of the times human participants, and also the compliance is needed for making public assurance that the right, safety and well-being of trial participants are protected and they are consistent with Declaration of Helsinki. So, the third one, data credibility, and fourth one, qualified people. Which regulations governs in India particularly? So in India, the governs the regulations which are required. The clinical trials in India are governed by NDCT rules 2019, which are framed in under the Drugs and Cosmetic Act by CDSCO, DCGI. These rules replaced the earlier Schedule Y. So earlier we used to have Schedule Y, but now we have a NDCT. Introduced defined approval timelines, compensation, and also ethics committee registration. So earlier it was just a Schedule Y to conduct a clinical trial, but now it is how ethics committees are getting approval or composition, clinical trial approval and timelines, and also the assay reporting and all those aspects comes into picture. So this is about your the regulations governs particularly in India. So NDCT rules 2019, CDSCO, DCGI rules, ethics committees, the registration under mandatories, and ICMR regulations, the National Ethical Guidelines for Biomedical and Health Research for Human Participants is one more guidelines which you have to do it. If anyone asks you this question, what regulations governs in India? First one is NDCT, the second one is CDSCO, DCGI guidelines, the ethics committees, and last one is ICMR guidelines which are required. There are different phases of human being clinical trials which are being taken into considerations. The trials move from first in human to post-marketing surveillance. Each phase answers a specific questions with an objective. The interviewer rarely testing the sample size. They want to hear what do you know about this site and every stage of program. They don't want to hear that how many subjects are being taken into clinical trial and all those answers, but they want to know that how the clinical trial is being conducted and how many people are being taken into considerations. The phase 1, the safety and tolerability, PK, and the protocol ICF and study reports are being developed by medical writers. This is phase 1, 20 to 100 healthy volunteers. Phase 2, 100 to 300 healthy volunteers or patients, particularly not healthy volunteers. Protocol and IB updates are being taken into consideration. The objective of phase 2 has to be clearly mentioned. Phase 3, confirmatory efficacy and also the safety of 300 to 1,000 patients, full CSR narratives has to be given. After this, you get NDA submission. After this, you go for phase 4, which is post-marketing surveillance, PEBRAR, and also publication of real-world data and also analysis. Also, phase 0 is the recent one which has been added. What is clinical trial protocol and what are the sections included? The protocol is the controlling document. It's a Bible for clinical trials. It states design, objective and methodologies and statistical consideration and organization of clinical trial at every stage. And any department recorded as per protocol deviation, it has to approve the ethics committee, and also no single participant should be enrolled unless and until you get approval from the protocol for the ethics committee, also approval from the regulatory authorities including DCJ. What it contains, probably the answer is the protocol is the one document which is being prepared by the medical writers. It contains the synopsis, a standalone 2 or 4 pages summary of whole study which has been given, and the background, the disease context, product, data and scientific rationales for trial, and objective and endpoints, what is the study ask, and the measurable, verifiable variable that answers it, the design and population, the study design, schedule of assessments, and also eligibility criteria has to be given. The statistical and ethical considerations, the sample size and analysis and sets, and safety reporting and consent procedures are being taken into considerations. The next question, what is informed consent form and what must it contain? The ICF provides the participants everything they needed. They need to decide freely whether they have to take part or not. Under ICH E6 R3, it must cover the purpose, procedures and duration, and also forcible risk and expected benefit and alternative risks, on confidentiality, compensation, voluntary nature of participation and withdrawal from the clinical trial at any point in time, plus contact details of for the questions of the investigator. So the reading level, aim for the 6th to 8th grade of reading level of the patient and develop your ICF. Local language, in India, provide the participants local language with the certified back translations. Assent has to be there and reconsent also has to be taken into consideration. What is investigator brochure? So investigator brochure is the compilation of all the clinical and non-clinical investigational drug products which are very relevant to the human being studies. This is being submitted before a clinical trial is started or initiated because it contains all the information about the investigator brochure or the drug product, about the preclinical and clinical information which is needed. It gives investigator the rationale and dose justification and the known safety profile and monitoring requirements. So it contains summaries, introduction, physical, chemical and pharmaceutical properties and non-clinical data. Closing section, it gives summary of the data and guidelines. It gives the frequency every year, it has to be updated, and approval and path, it has to be re-reviewed and approved by cross-functional team and also to the ethics committee and the regulatory authorities for investigator brochure. The next question is about what is CSR, clinical study report. The clinical study report is an integrated report which combines the clinical and statistical description, and it gives ICHE's 3 structure and 16 numbered section. 1 to 4, it gives synopsis, table of contents, ethics and investigator and administrative, 4 sections. 5 to 8, introduction of objectives and investigator plan and study participants. 9 to 11, the study plan, conduct, efficacy, evaluation and full safety, and last 12 to 16, discussion overall and also tables, figures and references document are to be given into the CSR. The next question, what is CTD and what do we have? 5 modules. The common technical document is being defined as per M4, the harmonized format of document, registration for dossier for regulatory authority, the CTD and electronic version. Module 1, regional and administrative changes and manufacturing details. Module 2, overview of summary of module 3 to 5. Module 3, quality, which is chemistry, manufacturing and control. Module 4, which is pharmacology and toxicology. Module 5, which is clinical trials and CSRs. What is patient narrative? A patient narrative is the concise chronological clinical summary of one patient significant event. If, for example, if patient gets an adverse event, what happens, when happens, and how it has been resolved. when occurred, what exactly it goes with demography, histories, medical histories, dosings, dates and onset dates, seriousness criteria, action taken and outcome. Causality, the investigator assessment whether this is related to drug or not. Common errors, the back end chronology, dates that are contradictory to the listings have to be carefully taken into preparations of narrative writing. One more question, what is aggregate study reports for the medical writers? There are DSUR, Developmental Safety Update Report, PSUR and PEBRAR, so Periodic Safety Update Report, and also Periodic Benefit Risk Evaluation Report. The PEDAR, the Periodic Adverse Event Experience by FDA, and also RMP, which is Risk Management Plan, which has to be given. So I think I have discussed so many questions. I'll just put one more light for all the questions. So the first question, what is medical writing? The second question, types of medical writing. Third question, what exactly a medical writer does? And the fourth question, what is ICH, E6, E3 and E2C, E2D and also E9 and MA? And what is GCP and what is garnering of clinical trials, and what are the phases of clinical trials? And then what is protocol and how to explain, and also informed consent form, and also it contains data also. We have gone through one of the investigator brochure statement and also CSR statement, and what is the CTD, all the characteristics of module 1 to 5, and also patient narrative. We have discussed about all these aspects. Aggregate report we have discussed mainly the aggregate reports of DSUR, PEBRAR and PEDAR are being taken into consideration. So thank you so much. You can contact us 912-115-1622, 912-115-1624. Tomorrow we have Power BI 2 hours of hands-on workshop. If anyone is interested, you can pay and you can join this Power BI session. Any questions anyone have, you can ask me. You can ask in the chat box. Any questions anyone have, you can ask me. I'm watching at YouTube. This week we have taken medical writing. Next week probably I'll be taking for SAS interview based questions. For SAS interview based questions I'll be taking the session. But for this session, any questions you have, you can ask me. Okay, I think one question I have got, which companies, sir? So it depends on multiple companies, Pfizer or Novartis or Parexel or Hetero. All companies had pharmacists for medical writing jobs. Okay guys, thank you. Have a nice wonderful evening. Thank you.